So, Reyna, one of the things we always talked about wanting to do on the podcast was having other couples come on and curate the show the way we normally curate the show.
Yeah, and I can't be more excited that it's Tom and Tanya, my best friend.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys very much. We're honored.
Oh my gosh, super
to
excited.
be your first guests.
Great.
Yeah.
And I know you guys are big horror fans. We've known you guys forever, so we're always talking about a particular horror movie. If we see something, we're like, you guys got to see this, So we're always kind of going back and forth about what we love, like what horror movies we love. So we know you guys were the perfect choice.
Definitely.
So,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I actually do is I text Reyna and say, hey, have you seen this one?
And we always check in with each other.
Yeah, before we watch the movie, and then she'll tell me, no, but you need to see it, or...
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of why we started the podcast in the first place, because with horror, it's so hard to find like the really good stuff.
Yeah.
So you want to have a circle of people that you trust, like you guys, for us, that go, yeah, you got to see this movie. Like, this is really, really good. And in a weird way, we're trying to do that for other people we don't even know. So, that sort of thing. So we recommend you guys as curators, because you guys have turned us on to movies as well. So we couldn't be more excited to kind of pass the baton to you guys for this episode.
Thank you.
Oh my God.
That's very special.
And I'm so excited to hear your list.
It means a lot.
So this particular curation, we're going to do your top 5 for each one of you.
Okay.
Your top 5 date night specific horror films. The kinds of horror films you think work really well on a date. Whether it be your first date or you've been married for 20 years, date
25.
night as well.
5.
Yeah, and so with each choice, you can kind of tell us why you picked it for a specific date night horror film. So
Okay.
cool. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
We are ready.
Cool. So Tanya and Tom, why don't you tell our listeners about yourselves and kind of your relationship with horror and how it relates to
You as a couple.
you as a couple, yeah.
Okay. Hi, this is Tanya. Well, we've been married for 25 years, and we've known each other for 35. So we've known each other for a long time. And I can't really pinpoint the first time like we started watching horror, but I've always loved horror. And so that started early on for me. But we just would find that we had things in common with watching kind of gore and just especially through the 80s, because that's when we were kind of dating and stuff. So it was all those 80s horror movies. And I've always liked to be scared. And I liked, even going, during Halloween and do all the different, fun activities for that. And so Tom always kind of enjoyed going with me. And just over the years, we just started watching horror films. And then when I met you guys, there was a whole other level going on there. So I don't know. It just kind of just happened. There wasn't anything specific. So,
I think there was a natural kind of a progression with us, because whenever we're looking for something to do, you want to go see a movie, and we look at the previews, and there's a comedy or a drama or an action thriller, or there's a horror, she's automatically drawn to the horror.
Oh yeah,
of course.
that's my first
And that's
thing.
usually at the top of the list, and 8 times out of 10, it's something that we both really enjoy, and then we end up talking about it on the way home and things like that. But the one thing that always has stood out, especially in the last 15 years or so, is like, oh, those guys would love this movie. We got to tell them about it. And thinking, naturally, you guys. We've been married for 25 years, and Tanya pretty much kind of pinpointed it. It's just been a natural progression. We really enjoy thriller, suspenseful type movies, as well as the slasher and the gore. But then at the same time, we also like, comedies and things like that.
Zombie
usually
movies.
the
Yay, that's why we're BFFs.
Okay.
One of the reasons.
Okay, are you guys ready to get started?
Oh yeah,
We are.
definitely.
Cool. Who's going to go first?
You're
Ladies
gonna
first.
Ladies first. Okay.
Ladies before
pressure.
gentlemen.
Okay.
Do it.
All right, so my first one, and I know you guys already talked about this, but I have to because it's my all-time favorite movie, is Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
Absolute. I just...
Wow, you guys are sisters.
That movie I can watch over and over and over again, and I still find stuff that I missed somewhere along the line, and that movie is just, for me, perfect date night because it's such a classic movie.
Yeah.
And it did start me off on the whole zombie thing.
Yeah.
And everything that I've watched with zombies, I've always compared to that movie.
Yeah.
It's just hard
not to.
That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah, and it's so well done, and the zombies are my favorite zombies because they do different things in the remakes, and they get faster, which I'm not.
Right.
The faster zombie thing does trip me out.
Yeah.
But I do like the slower zombies. And it's also a funny movie because there's certain things in that movie that you're just catching of what zombies are doing and the way that they're dressed and the different types, like they're just ordinary people in their lives that now become zombies. So that's what I like looking at is like how they're dressed. Oh, there's a housewife and there's a mechanic and there's the different ones.
Yeah.
And just being in the mall and the different, all of that whole aspect of it. So for me, that's my absolute favorite.
And you stole one of mine.
Oh no!
Because
I knew that was going to happen.
Because for a number of reasons, everything that you just mentioned. The other reason is I grew up. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh.
Oh my goodness!
George Romero country. As a matter of fact, I taught my son's mother how to drive a car in the actual cemetery where they filmed Night of the Living Dead.
Oh my God,
Oh,
that's crazy.
that's
and
crazy.
I didn't know that. It was one of those I've been here before kind of a thing. And then she had told me, she said, yeah, that's where they filmed, a number of the scenes. I'm like, okay. And then the mall in which they did Dawn of the Dead is a mall that's still actually a mall. It's still very popular.
Oh, wow.
And we, as many times as we're back to Pittsburgh to visit family and friends, we still have yet to go to that mall.
Really?
No.
Tanya!
I know, right?
I can't believe it.
How far is it?
It's in Monroeville, which is from where my sister lives, about maybe 12 miles.
Oh,
so it's a
next
matter
time.
of taking a half an hour, 40
And the
minutes.
graveyard, you have to go.
Yeah,
We can do that, yeah. So though, for all the reasons that you mentioned, plus the growing up and having been there. So
That is so cool.
I think Dawn is such a great conversation piece too, because there's so much social commentary in it, and then there's all the extreme gore and all that stuff. So you could be talking about kind of the juvenile aspects of it, like the extreme gore, but then you could be talking about like the anti-consumerism, and I know George Romero, like he was. I've seen documentaries where he talked about how he was very disappointed in his generation, how his generation had kind of sold out to this kind of consumer model as opposed to being this kind of renegade generation. So it sparks all these great things, and I think great conversation on a date is critical.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You talked about the humor and kind of the tongue-in-cheek part of it. There's always one that no matter where we're at, what we're doing, it always stands out in that movie, a particular scene where I think it's the bikers that come into the mall.
With Tom Savini.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Tom
Go ahead.
Savini's in there.
Yes, and they, they're going crazy, and they're attacking the zombies, and they're kicking over the mannequins and just creating havoc. But there's one where one of the bikers goes in and puts his arm in the automatic blood pressure.
I love that scene.
Oh my God, that scene is amazing.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
That's the one that stands out in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And then I guess a few minutes later, a zombie goes in, puts his arm, and causes the machine to explode.
Yeah, that's great.
It's you find yourself laughing in the midst of all this gore and mayhem and death and destruction, and that's a lot
my
of fun.
George
That's
Romero.
awesome. Wow, that I have to say, I mean, it's very similar to your choice, but that's a pretty good first start.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Ooh, what's the follow-up?
What's your?
Well,
He's got cue cards too, which he's very prepared.
They both do?
Yeah, they both
I
have.
do
Yeah,
too.
I didn't see yours because yours were hidden.
After Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead may be a little anticlimactic, but there's a movie that I've always enjoyed and I've looked for it, and it's hard to find on, Hulu or YouTube or whatever, or Netflix. But it's a movie from 1972 called You'll Like My Mother.
Oh my God, I don't know.
I don't know this one either.
Ooh.
We did. I stumped them.
You did.
I'll be darned.
You like my mother. I like
Especially him.
The
Enzo.
name sounds really ominous. Too.
It is, and that actually sets the tone for the entire movie.
And remember, no spoiler alerts.
Yeah, you can't.
That's right.
Don't
Okay.
spoil anything. You got to keep it vague.
Okay.
Because I want to see it now.
Yeah.
Like if you're recommending this.
Yes, I am, and it's not. It's on the sort of the opposite end of the gore. There's no gore. But it's very suspenseful. It's very spooky. There's a lot of intense buildup to different scenes, and then, as we've discussed before, I like things that have a bit of a twist at the end, a plot twist. And this has 3 or 4 throughout the movie, but then at the end, there's a great plot twist that you honestly don't see coming. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Ooh.
But it's. There's actually a number of big names in this movie.
Okay.
Patty Duke
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
plays the lead.
Okay.
And just a brief synopsis. She is a Vietnam War widow. Remember, again, this is a movie filmed in 1972.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she's a Vietnam War widow.
Very topical then for the time.
Yes, very much so. She finds out she's pregnant shortly after she receives the news of her husband being killed in Vietnam. And she goes from California to Minnesota to meet her mother-in-law, who she's never met before.
Okay.
So that sort of sets a tone for...
I feel like you should not say any more because
Right,
I'm just like,
yeah.
oh, this sounds amazing.
Okay, so...
No, I'm not. I'm kidding. I'm more excited about.
But if you can find it.
the setup sounds great.
If you can find it, it really is. It's a very suspenseful.
You can keep going. I'm just more that my horrorness is like, ooh.
I know. We're going to totally go look for it when we get...
And that's actually that is basically the theme of the movie. She goes and gets to know the people in the family that she's never met before. Her husband has told her a lot about the family. Oh, and she was excited to meet, and then the devastation of losing her husband. So it's Patty Duke is in the movie. Richard Thomas, John Boy from the Waltons, is in the movie.
Yeah.
And there's an actress from the 40s and 50s by the name of Rosemary Murphy who plays the mother that she'll like. And I don't know if you recognize the name Sean Barbara Allen. Big in the 60s and 70s.
I probably know the face.
You'll know the face when you see it. She's one of those actresses that has, no matter what her emotion is, her face looks like she's about to burst into tears.
Oh yeah.
She's one of
like
them.
kind of that frail.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And the performances are just phenomenal. It's not gory, but it is very suspenseful.
How would you categorize the film? Is it more like a family horror kind of thing, like a Whatever Happened to Baby Jane sort of thing, or is it like what's going on?
A little less intense than Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It lulls you into a false sense of comfort. Oh, this is great. They're going to meet the family.
Oh God,
Minnesota is beautiful.
I love.
You're hitting all the horror feels.
I love I love sophisticated horror, that's nuanced, and 2, I love when horror blindsides you, like that's. I feel like that's what you're describing.
Exactly.
So I kind of don't want you to say that much more because I want to see this.
Yeah.
Can you find it? Were you able to find it?
You've been looking.
We've been looking. I probably should look a little deeper. You may be able to find it in if there's still. Do they still have video stores anywhere? If there's a used record store that has used videos, you'll be able to find it in the back bin, the cutout bin, that sort of thing. But it might be we found a movie
eBay.
that I hadn't
We didn't
seen.
look at eBay.
Yeah.
Good idea.
eBay might have it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again,
Awesome.
You'll Like My Mother.
1972, you said?
1972, directed by somebody that I had never heard of before, and I don't think he did a whole lot after that. A gentleman by the name of Lamont Johnson.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with that name, but very good movie, I thought. So
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah.
We
Awesome.
we
Have you
gotta
seen
check
it,
that one
Tanya?
out.
You haven't seen it
Not yet.
either?
And you know, I really love vintage horror too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll watch it and you'll be like, oh my god, this is ridiculously potent. Like, especially for that time, you know.
Right.
So and then I'm like, as long as the horror is there, as long as the shocks are there, those things can be timeless in a strange way. I mean, like, God, like The Exorcist still has
Oh,
the
yeah.
same
Right.
level of potency.
Right.
So cool.
Yeah.
Okay, Tanya, do you have your next one?
Yeah. And so this one kind of fits as far as an older movie, but this one actually I think is the one that maybe started me on horror
Ooh, okay.
because I was little. And my mom, I guess, had it on the TV from what I can remember because it was a long time ago. And we had it upstairs and we had this stairway and it had these the railings, and I would look down and peek and look. I could see the TV and the movie The Birds.
Oh,
Oh my God.
yes.
And I thought about you too.
I have a fear of birds.
Yeah.
I think The Birds is a proto-zombie movie in
Yeah.
a weird sort of
Oh,
way.
that's interesting.
It's nature turned on its ear, and a great zombie film. It's like, why are they coming? Well, what is happening? Like, nature, the rules of nature have been changed.
Right.
The Birds is that.
And it's very subtle.
that.
And I remember like watching it and my mom going, go back to bed, type of thing. But somehow it came on again. And I remember sneaking into the room and watching the movie. And Joseph was like, wow, this movie is like crazy. And I'm young too. And so I wasn't scared.
Yeah.
I was fascinated by it.
Yeah,
and
it's great.
so I think, well, Alfred Hitchcock, as you know, I mean,
Oh.
brilliant in what he's done
Yeah.
in his films. And this one, I think what I like, what I mentioned before, is it's subtle, like moving along, doing their thing. And but it has this weird, the whole time, it still has this weird, creepy feeling, like something's not quite right.
Yeah.
You know? And as you just start to notice just the birds just around and landing
Yeah.
and
It's creepy.
yeah, and just how he focuses on that and the little lovebirds and just, you know,
Yeah.
it kept being a focus. And it's just, I don't know, that movie. And then just the whole, obviously, the birds just attacking people and just that whole thing kind of freaks me out because it could happen.
Oh my God, it totally
It could totally
could.
happen.
I'm convinced it will one
Right.
day.
Well, I believe that zombie apocalypse is coming too. But
Yes.
so
Me too.
yes, that's a whole other podcast. But so anything where I believe like a bird can like attack you or things that can happen to you
Yeah.
makes it even more kind of creepy for me. So this one I think is a great. One of the reasons I think it's a great date night movie is because it's kind of to me a retro type movie,
Yeah.
which I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can just kind of sit and watch it and just be like looking at something that was filmed. It was like 1963.
Yeah.
So it was a year before I was born. And it was actually also, because it was up in Bodega Bay, up in California, which is not that far from where we lived, and which I've been up there. And so it's like one of those
my
great
gosh.
places where you've been able to go to and see where it was actually filmed,
Right.
which is always an added
That's
bonus.
always cool. Yeah,
you
that's
know?
very
And then
cool.
you can see it, you know, on film. But
Yeah.
it's changed a little bit up there, but it's still really kind of cool. So The Birds was my...
When you went up there, were you scared that birds were going to start pecking at your
I was
head?
like, oh,
You know, it's
it's a
interesting.
seagull.
It's interesting because I feel like Hitchcock is one of those first directors in horror, in modern horror, that he would do the sense of dread and he would have all those
Yeah.
elegant moments, but he also had teeth. He would
Right,
attack.
he delivered.
Yeah.
He would attack the audience.
Right.
You know, and I feel like that he was one of those architects of the anatomy of modern horror, where okay, it's cool to have all the setup and the sense of dread, but there has to be moments where you're tugging at your eyes and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like he was one of the first to really accost the audience, like really wrestle them to the ground, and you know, and all his early stuff. You know, you have the elegance, and then you have that bite.
Yeah.
that bite that we love. Too,
Yeah.
So
And if you read about Alfred Hitchcock and find out more about him as a person and as a director,
he's a weird dude.
Oh my gosh! Then you're like watching his movies with actually a whole different eye
Yeah.
too, going, "Oh, okay, this guy."
They did
a lot going on.
They did a docudrama about the making of the birds. I don't know if you guys saw that. What was that called?
Might have been a
I
while
don't
ago.
remember.
I think it had some. It was a play on his name, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I forget what the name is. Well, we'll look it up. But anyway, I remember watching it, and he had this weird obsession with what's the main actress's name?
Tippy.
Chippy Hedren.
Yes, I remember. Okay, yeah, we did see that.
So he had this weird attraction to her, and he would kind of force her into these really semi-dangerous situations with filming and kind of punish her, and he
had a different side to him.
yeah, and that movie is actually a
Don't you
really
share
good
a
horror
birthday?
movie too. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we do. That's
He
very
was
true.
born August 13th.
Yeah, we have the same birthday. That's cool that you remember that. I totally forgot.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
We learned in that documentary that Hitchcock would, like you said, he would put Tippi Hedren into certain situations because he wanted those natural reactions.
Yeah.
Instead of a staged, wide-eyed scream that was planned and
Yeah.
rehearsed. And I don't know if I hope I'm not going with any more of your movies, but in Psycho, in the famous shower scene, he used cold water
Right.
on Janet Leigh. And so it was, she jumped back and was scared, and it startled her, and that was the natural reaction.
So good.
Yeah.
I remember hearing that too. I
genius
remember
when it
that,
came to
yeah.
that.
Yeah. I love all that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it on my like.
Okay.
Cool. Tom,
Back to
do you
me
have your
now?
next one? Yeah.
Interesting segue, because I'm going to stay in that general era with
Okay.
black and white movies. Excuse me. And I'm going to go with The Bad Seed.
Oh, I love that movie.
Love that movie.
Creepy kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
Talking about
Yes.
creepy kids.
Yes.
All right. I knew they were going to do this. I knew you were going to bring up movies that I absolutely worship. The Bad Seed,
That's
I
such a good one.
I just
absolutely
watched that not too long
worship
ago.
that movie.
Yeah.
And it's so potent. Like, it is so well done. Wow. Go.
It's still, it's potent.
it.
And even with everything that's out there in the genre, with the slasher movies and the horror and the Dracula and the chainsaws, and it still holds up
Absolutely.
as a psychological thinking person's type of a thriller.
Yeah.
And that's why it's on my list.
So good.
Because Tanya really turned me on to creepy kids.
That's one of yours too.
I know.
Like you like the creepy
kids.
kid
I love
thing.
creepy
too.
kids.
Sometimes we'll even be somewhere and there will just be a kind of an odd looking child, and she'll elbow me and she'll say,
Oh my God. I don't know if you want to keep that on.
cornfield, kid in the cornfield,
yeah.
and it's just
Oh, man.
but it's a powerful tool
Yeah.
that's used. And Mervyn LeRoy used it. As a director, just used it.
Who was the actress?
Her name was Patty McCormick.
She crushed it.
Yeah.
She did. She would go from one end of the spectrum to the other.
Yeah, really scary. And I think it makes a lot of sense too, because a child is developing. So like, if it misses certain things, I could easily see a child going, "Oh, if I want something, I take it," and loses the moral compass. With bad parenting, that sort of thing. So it feels like a really plausible killer scenario.
Right.
I think that's what's scary about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And she does it in the movie, and it's actually based on a book that was slightly different. I'll go into that in a second as far as the movie goes. But she just plays the perfect little psychopath.
Yeah, oh my God, it's so scary.
Yeah, she'll do what she does in the movie, and if you've never seen it, there are 5 or 6 different situations where she has a chance to take the moral high ground and be the good person, and just absolutely shouldn't do it.
But the fear in her mom too.
Yes.
Like
Uh-huh.
you see it, and just like, oh man.
Yeah.
So
But there's like you, Enzo, I'm a bit of a student of what goes on behind the movies.
Yeah.
Just real quick, we had gone to L.A. and went to Universal Studios. And Universal Studios is a great place, but to me it was more of a theme park. I wanted to go to Warner Brothers and see stuff that went on behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and the
Absolutely.
sound stages and the technical aspect of it. With this movie, at that time, the ending is changed from the book.
Okay.
The book has a completely different ending because the motion picture code at the time would not allow
Okay.
for crime to pay.
Interesting.
So
In other words, the book had a grimmer ending.
very much so. Very much so.
I hate when they change that.
Yeah. And then another tool that they use at the end of the movie, because much like when The Exorcist came out in 1972, I think was The Exorcist. I mean, people were fainting in theaters and had to be carried out, and they had, medical teams ready in the lobby of the theaters, and it was a whole big dramatic thing. This movie actually had an effect on its test audiences back in 1958, 1956, much like The Exorcist did in 1972.
Oh, I could totally see that.
Where they actually went in after the movie was released to the test audiences, before it was released to the general public. They introduced each member of the cast at the end of the movie, and they're smiling and laughing. And
Oh, so you could
Yeah.
you can
separate
say, oh, they're
them.
rich
Separate them,
people.
yeah.
People
Right.
run out of the theater. Once.
Especially with that kid.
Yeah.
Right?
So great.
A couple of interesting twists. Again, I'm all about the plot twists, and a couple of interesting asides to that movie and how it affected people of that particular era. But again, just the build up, and like you said, Tanya, how she terrorizes her mother and terrorizes the people in her immediate orbit.
Yeah.
Very, very psychologically engaging.
Yeah.
As far as a thriller goes.
Yeah.
So good.
That's a good choice.
Yeah, and I think about like all the other films that have kind of followed that blueprint, and all the tropes are there. Yeah, it's the framework for those kinds of films. I feel like if you were teaching a college course on horror, you'd have to put Bad Seed on
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
You'd have to.
Absolutely.
It's one of those origin type films
Right.
that creates this
certain
whole
genre, right.
subgenre.
Right.
Oh,
I
great
wanna
choice.
see it.
Awesome.
No, again.
Oh my god, I love the Bad Seed. I remember when growing up, one of my older sisters, she was kind of mean. She was on the mean side.
Oh my God.
And we would always
kill you
joke
for
to her. We would go, "You're the Bad Seed. You're just like the
Oh my
Bad Seed." And really, she was just kind of a bully, but she wasn't like a psychopath.
Oh my God.
But I remember we would go, "You're like the Bad Seed. You're like the Bad Seed."
Oh, that's too funny.
Great choice.
Yeah, that's a great choice.
Thank you.
All right, Tanya,
All right, Tanya.
You're up.
you're
Okay.
number 3.
All right. So I'm going to say this with a quote from the movie,
Ooh.
and you'll know it. This is classic. And I don't know if the quote's exact, but I
can
smelled the whiskey on his breath and I liked it.
Oh
You
my
know
god.
what it is.
I do.
What is it?
It might not be quite right.
No, you're right.
it-
I think
Was
it
that
is,
the
yeah.
okay? So that was from Carrie,
Oh,
which is I think you
my
guys talked
God.
about Carrie.
Love Carrie.
Yeah, love
This is
Carrie.
like on the top 5 of
Yeah.
movies, and
Yeah, it is. for me
Carrie.
too.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin with that movie because for date night, I mean, come on, it's a classic teenage,
Yep.
movie with all the horror involved. I think I've always had a thing for underdogs and people that
Yeah.
needed to be cared for,
Yeah.
and Carrie was just that person where you're just like, oh my gosh, your whole life is a mess and nobody loves you and your mom is a psycho.
Yeah.
Oh,
and,
the mom is
and the
so
whole
scary.
religious aspect
Yeah.
of it too with the
Right.
mom, and so you're going into this whole creepy situation to begin with. And it's hard not to talk about this movie and give away spoilers. And if you haven't seen it, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Because
You're living
You
under a
have
rock.
to see it,
For sure.
and
know.
it still holds up too.
it does. And the remake, it's like, don't even
Don't
even
bother.
bother.
Waste your time.
Don't
Yeah.
bother with it. You just see the original and enjoy it. And the names that are in the movie, from, Sissy Spacek, which is, she's just incredible in
Yeah.
this
Got
movie.
such
So
good
good.
range.
Yeah, and it was actually interesting because she was pushed by her husband to audition for the movie. And she wasn't going to, and so he really pushed her, and she went. I can't remember exactly what she was wearing, but she went and wore some kind of weird outfit, like a girl sailor outfit at the audition. You know, they kind of gave her, because picture her in that, wearing that with all those other girls in the movie.
Yeah.
You can kind of see her kind of being kind of pathetic. And
Yeah, she'd
they're like,
have that innocent.
you're
odd.
it. Yeah. You are in the movie. And it had John Travolta, of course, in the movie.
Yeah.
It had, no, because I wrote down the names, Amy Irving,
Amy
Nancy
Irving.
Oh, that's
Allen,
right.
Yeah.
and Betty Buckley.
Right, from played the mom in 80's Enough.
It is enough, yeah.
She was in that.
She was the teacher.
She was
right?
the teacher,
Yeah.
the gym
Yeah.
teacher.
Gym teacher.
And just the whole, of her just trying to find herself and trying to fit in. And we all have felt that in our
Yeah.
lives, of trying to fit in. And this whole movie is just about that. And then you have that person that actually recognized that, in Carrie, of like, wow, she just needs a friend and really wanted to be helpful. And that just all turned bad.
It
It's
did.
interesting because there's a lot of teenager movies that are done and they're not nuanced like the way this movie is.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Like especially Sissy Spacek's performance at the beginning of the film, you're like, yeah, I can see her as an outcast. I see that, like the shower scene and all that. It's very believable. And then towards the middle of the film, where she starts to get a little bit of social status, you're like,
yeah.
wow, she's actually a pretty good-looking girl.
Right.
You're like, wow, yeah, I could see this happening. Kind of ugly duckling syndrome.
Right.
Right. But I have to tell you, the way she looks when she finally has the blood on her and she's finally using her power, she is absolutely terrifying.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And
Oh, yeah.
that is what the remake missed.
Oh,
When
yeah.
the blood, it all has to kind of work together. The actor has to have the intensity.
Right.
Just that whole part
think
is
that whole
a
scene
masterpiece.
at the gym.
Yeah.
To me, to this day, I watch that and it just creeps me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because, like you said, her powers that she uses and everything, you're just like, oh my gosh. Well, I don't want to give away if you haven't watched it, but just things that, because it's all in the head,
Yeah.
and it's terrifying.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it is.
the walk home and
Yeah.
and then of course the end, which I will never
Right.
give away.
I love the
But I
end.
think,
Yeah,
too,
right.
for Sissy Spacek, is she kind of glows.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know what it is about her
Right.
skin, if she's just how
yeah,
pale she is.
Yeah.
And then her piercing eyes, like
Yeah.
the color of her eyes, like through the blood and everything.
Right.
Oh, my God.
And then the satin
Super
dress with the
creepy.
blood on
Yeah.
it.
Right.
It turns her into a skeleton.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
a skeletal beauty.
Very visually
Yeah.
powerful. I read somewhere, again, I go back into the whole technical aspect and behind the scenes and the stuff you don't normally know.
Yeah.
The scene in the gym, the second to the last scene of the movie in the gym, took 5 or 6 days to complete.
Wow.
I mean, it's a sequence of about 12 or 13 minutes
Right.
from start to
Yeah.
finish. It took them like 6 or 7 days to complete everything. She did not change her clothes
Wow.
in real life. She stayed in. She had she kept the blood on her. They had to touch it up, of course.
Yeah.
But she kept the stage blood on her. She kept the clothing on. She basically stayed in character to help create that intensity that you just mentioned.
Wow. And I didn't even know that.
brilliant.
Yeah.
And
So-
you watch it step per step when the fire starts to happen.
Yeah.
That fire is beautiful. Like just everything. There's a beauty to all of it. There's a pure horror to all it. There's a beauty to all of it. You can sense the crafted quality of that scene. It's one of the best scenes.
Yeah.
In any horror film.
No, also in this movie too, I mean, of course, Carrie, the main character and everything, but the mom.
Oh,
I had
my
to talk about the mom
God, the
because
so scary.
which is Piper
Laurie was her name.
Brilliant.
She attacks
Oh my
that
God.
role. She
oh
is
my
so
gosh.
creepy.
Just the way, well, she has her house decorated.
Yeah.
But in her little closet and her belief in her religion and, going out to other, people in the neighborhood and trying to, she just has this weird, here's the weird lady. Here she comes. Oh my gosh, I don't want to talk to her. And you just feel uncomfortable being around her. And as soon as, Carrie walks in the house, something like, mom is going to go crazy. Like something's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's her religion. It's not a belief.
Right.
It's beyond uber crazy, weird fanaticism.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so intense and so integral to the movie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Really sets the tone.
Yeah,
for a lot of it.
definitely.
It's interesting because I don't think it's even, a poor depiction of religion. I think this woman is insane, but she's using religion to hold it together.
Right.
It's like she's barely holding it together.
Right.
That's why she's so passionate about her religion, because she's like, this is what's keeping me from killing everyone, or killing my daughter, or
Right.
Yeah, very good pick for date night, because I remember watching it with you. We were on the sofa together, and even when everything started in the seminal scene, you've seen that movie how many times, and you still
so
buried
great.
your face in my shoulder because you knew what was going to happen and you didn't want to see it. So perfect date night.
Yes.
Yes.
I love that movie.
Yeah,
That is a good one.
I love that film.
Yeah.
Good choice. I love
All
it.
right, Tom, you're number 3.
Back to me. We're going to go with a little bit kind of the same time span. And this was not so much gore, and I mean, again, you come up with such a good one with Carrie. This is sort of, we're going to take a couple of steps down with mine. But there was actually a movie that is very well known, but it was actually made for TV.
Oh God, are you going to say what I think you're going to say?
think
What do you
He
think
is.
I'm going to say?
Trilogy of Terror.
You got it.
Oh my God.
Exactly it.
You
You got it.
Love this
Okay,
movie.
these two are connected, and you and I are connected when it comes to stuff like that. It was actually a trilogy, of course. There were 3 different parts of the movie.
I love Trilogy of Terror too.
All with Karen Black.
Karen
Yes.
Black. Yeah,
The great Karen
played
Black.
in all 3 of the stories. The first 2 stories, honestly, to me, looking back on it, barely stand out.
Yeah,
The third story in this trilogy
it's crazy.
had a little, it was a little Zuni doll that somebody had given the Karen Black character as a gift.
Yep.
And the Zuni doll
Yep.
ends up being possessed and creates all sorts of havoc, and all hell breaks loose. And it's just, again, it's one of those suspenseful things.
It's suspenseful, but it's kind of funny when I think about that little thing.
Yeah.
I know, right? That you're scared of it.
Right.
And it was what? It was like, what, 12, 14 inches high?
Yeah.
like
That's
that?
about right. Yeah.
And it looked like Animal.
Yeah,
Yeah, it did.
From
Sort
the
of
Muppets.
does, yeah.
If
Yeah.
you think about it.
And it would even go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Animal does from
Yeah.
the Muppets.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it had the stringy hair.
Right.
But it looked like it was carved out of wood.
And had the teeth and had the evil grin and the eyes.
Super
and,
the
scary.
knife.
yeah, and that was just one of those things that I remember watching that as a teenager. I think I was a freshman in high school at that time, way back before electricity. And
True story.
thank you. I remember watching it in the living room, and nobody else was home. It was on a Friday night, and I was watching this movie, and I remember actually looking around the living room.
Looking under the couch and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It had that sort of effect on me.
Yeah.
And because it's such, there are some tongue-in-cheek scenes within that third part of the trilogy. The other 2, like I said, are barely,
Yeah, you barely remember them.
barely stand out. But the little Zuni doll is the one that whenever you talk about Trilogy of Terror, that's where everybody
It's
automatically
awesome.
goes
Yeah.
to.
It's interesting that you bring up Trilogy of Terror, and I got super excited about it because it's within my family, it's one of those films. You know how you have a film that all of you experienced together?
Yes.
We used to do this thing when we were all kids, and we'd all lie in bed with my mom, right? And we'd all be watching a movie together. And every so often, all of us would stay awake when we watch something together. and Trilogy of Terror is one of those movies. So we all watched it. I mean, that movie, for being a TV movie, it has an edge. The ending is terrifying.
Right.
The ending is still terrifying. Her performance, how that story resolves itself, is terrifying.
Right.
That's the stuff you're left with, right? And it's a TV movie. So I know all of my siblings, we all love that movie because it's so scary. And 3/4 of my, or the other 3, they're not really horror fans. They're casual at best. I remember watching that movie and being a little kid, and you know, we're all like freaked out and kind of, and I'm thinking, well, that was great.
Everybody's scared, but not you.
I was scared. I was scared, but I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna have total nightmares. This is gonna be awesome. Like, I'm just wired differently.
I want to go to sleep now.
I know.
Such a great movie, and it's funny because guys like Rob Zombie, you know, he does the thing with what Tarantino does, where he brings back actors. You know, he brought back Karen Black, and when I saw her, I was like, oh my god, it's Karen Black.
Yeah.
Because she has an intrinsic creepiness.
Yes.
You know, and in the other 2 stories, she has to be creepy, but in the final scene,
it's off the scales creepy.
Oh, so good.
And the fact that it was a TV movie, that it was made specifically for TV, thinking back on just even that third part of the trilogy, would actually translate very well to the big screen in a 90-minute or a 2-hour movie. There's so much that you could actually do with that, but the fact that they crammed so much intensity in such a short period of time, on television no less, really made it stand out for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I think it was either early 90s or late 80s, they actually did a remake of Trilogy of Terror.
Really?
With 3 scenes, same actress, but it didn't have the potency of the original.
There's just some things you don't mess with.
Yeah.
You know,
agreed.
Some things.
It's like the Carrie scenario.
Yeah.
And this actress was a good actress, but she didn't have that thing that Karen Black has.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like just this darkness, this kind of edge, you know.
And quick, what else did Karen Black do? You have to think about it.
Yeah.
When you think of Karen Black, automatically
you think
Trilogy
horror.
of Terror.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
for
like
sure.
a horror queen.
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure she did she spotted it with a bunch of other things like that.
Oh, she was very well known.
Yeah.
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 But you're right.
That I think is probably
That's
her
when you
crowning.
remember.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I want one of those dolls.
Right?
No.
If I ever see
Maybe.
one, you can it ain't going in
Stays in
my
the
house
garage.
nowhere.
I do. I want one.
We'll travel
And I'll
with
break
it.
the chain because I want to see what's going to happen.
Do you still have that crazy clown I gave you?
Yeah.
I do have the crazy. Tanya gave me this crazy, scary clown, and it's amazing. Like it's
So creepy.
It is
terrifying.
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to keep it in a storage like a mile from my house. Okay, I kid you not. I could not have it in the house, and I had it in my carport for a while. My sister, she's like, "Could you please put that thing in the house?"
Yeah,
Because she lived next door to
super
me. She
creepy.
couldn't stand looking at that thing.
I would have some fun right before you gave it to them. I don't know if you remember. I would put it like behind the wheel of your car, behind the steering wheel.
I'd love it.
She'd open up the front door and I'd be
great.
standing right there.
Yeah.
Open up the front door and it's like little kid trick or treating, and I put it in the bathroom one day.
Yeah.
Stood at
Oh
the
my
toilet,
God, I
the
love
closed
it.
toilet
See,
seat.
okay,
love it.
so we're these two couples. We're very successful couples. We've been together forever, both couples. And as a piece of advice to anyone out there, don't underestimate fucking with each other. That's a huge part of relationship intimacy is messing with each other that way.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
It makes
Yes.
it fun.
Even to this day, yeah.
Keeps it fresh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
All right,
Are you done with
Tanya.
yours?
Yeah.
to you.
Tanya, number 4.
All right, so I'm going now to go towards gore. I think a little
Yeah.
bit like.
Do it.
And this is another one to me. It's kind of, well, it's 13 years old already. 2005, Hostel.
Yeah.
It's had a lot of impact on me. And this one,
Wow, she's a lot like you.
I think on this one,
That's the intense ones.
this one's based in being in Europe, in Amsterdam, and that already kind of sets a tone
Yeah.
in Europe. And when they shoot a lot of movies like this in Europe, it has that kind of gray,
Yeah.
and they kind of mute, I think, the colors.
Yeah,
when they film, in
Cloudy.
a sense.
The post-processing.
Cloud, yeah, because
Cloudy,
you're
sort of
kind of like,
depressing
oh
looking
wow,
almost.
Yeah.
happy-go-lucky guys on vacation, and you're just like, yeah, we know something bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
Beautiful girls show up, and everybody's drinking and having a
This
good
is not
time.
going to end well.
Yeah, and so the build-up of that movie, of course, because you already know something's going to happen, but you don't even know.
You're not prepared.
You're like,
No.
I was not prepared.
Yeah.
Seriously, and I can handle a lot of gore, but this one just took me by surprise. It was like one thing after another. I'm like, holy crap, what the hell's going on here? And it's so twisted.
Yes.
It is just so twisted when you find out like what's happening, because I'm not going to give it away because you got to see this movie. You're like, what? Is this like happening? Because this could happen.
Yeah.
Like, I think it is happening personally. I mean, on a weird level. And and I think that blows me away about this movie. You're just like, holy crap. Like, I'm never going to Europe. I'm never staying in a hostel. And I
Never stay in a hostel.
well, I told you, yeah, sure. Well, I'm just too snobby for that. But
Agreed. Me too.
yeah. But I thought about like my nephew. I'm like, okay, don't go to Europe. Don't go to a hostel, because he's like, young at that
He
time.
wants to backpack and stay at hostels.
I told him, no, you can't.
Don't
well, now
hook
he's
up
older.
with
He
pretty
won't.
chicks.
He has a girlfriend now. He's settled. He's in Texas. Whatever. But I was worried for him after I saw this movie. It freaked me out
It's
so
pretty
much.
intense.
But that's what
Yeah.
freaks. Those are the best horror movies. The ones that you feel could happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's this whole sub theme of how Americans are perceived abroad, and that sort of thing, and you're in a place where you don't have the same sort of sense of safety, and
Right.
you don't speak the language maybe, and
Know the
it
culture.
plays upon all that stuff.
Yeah.
And the great Eli Roth.
Right.
Yes.
Like, I feel like sometimes his consistency is spotty, but this guy, he gets it. He knows what it is to be a horror director.
Right.
He wrestles you to the ground, and it's like, oh, you like horror? All right.
Right. Here you go.
Shoves it down your throat.
Oh,
Yeah.
man. There's so much extreme moments. There's so many extreme moments in that movie. It's
And
crazy.
I think that's what it was too, like showing the dark side of humans,
Yeah.
like what they're capable of doing.
Yeah.
Because it is out there. There's like certain degrees of stuff happening.
Makes you
in
think
the
about
world.
those missing
Yeah.
people, right? That go
Exactly.
on vacation,
Right.
never
There's-
come back, never
Yeah.
found.
Yep.
This is the dark side of people
Yeah.
on this, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And so I think during the whole, as it gets into that part of the movie,
Yeah.
I think the whole time I'm like, holy crap, holy shit, oh my God, oh my God, no, oh my God. And I'm like closing my eyes, and I
Yeah.
peek through my fingers too. I'm a peeker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
this one makes you do it for sure.
yeah, and I don't do it in the movie theater, but when I'm at home, I talk. When I have scary scenes, I'm and like, he'll be like, what is going on?
The color on the rewind button on our remote is worn off because she talks that much.
He's like, okay,
I love
now I got to rewind it because I didn't hear that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that one for me was just that whole in your face.
Make it stop moment.
So-
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I can't stop watching
Right.
it.
Good.
What's wrong with me?
You're a horror fan. That's what's wrong with
That's
you.
right.
So I have a question for you, Enzo. You and I think very much alike.
Okay.
And there are so many horrible things that are depicted in that movie.
Yeah.
There's one that stands out to me.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if you and I are alike on this one as well.
Does it involve male genitalia?
No, actually, no.
Okay.
Actually, it doesn't.
All right.
Which, don't take that away. That's horrible to think about.
Yeah.
But there's one scene that involves an Achilles tendon.
Oh,
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah, that's-
I could
that's
actually
twisted.
take.
That's
I could
twisted.
take the scene with the male genitalia.
Yeah.
There's, oh boy, that poor guy. He's like, their family tree ends with him. But then there's another scene where I think it was one of the female.
Careful,
victims.
spoiler alert.
Yes.
Yeah.
And just that that made me physically cringe
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
curl up into a little ball, and just the thought of that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because when the torture stuff starts to happen, it becomes this traumatic nightmare. So it becomes this kind of whirlwind of stimuli, which is fucking great. Like it's like sometimes the details blur between what happened to who and all that,
Right.
because it's such a traumatic film.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
And I have to mention, because this whole thing is about date night horror movies, I have to tell you, every horror movie is for date night. I mean, I really,
Yeah.
I
I
agree.
mean,
That's
for me to
true.
say, is it a specific one? I mean, because for this one, I mean, if you think of like, oh yeah, I'm going to take my boyfriend or girlfriend to go see Hostel. I mean, is that really date night? But for us,
Last date night, yes.
but like I'm holding on to him,
Yeah.
'cause I'm
Yeah,
just like
that's-
so
that's-
freaked out.
I think Hostel you don't take on your first date for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
if you want a
You
second
showed-
one, you don't take it on the
Yeah,
first.
that would be like the scene from Taxi Driver where he takes her to the porno, remember? And she's like, "You're a weirdo." Like if you took a girl on a first date to see Hostel, she'd be like, "What are you trying to say?"
Unless you're
Right.
Tanya or I.
Right.
I would
I would be like, oh yeah, we were made for each other.
That's right.
That's true.
marry me now.
My
Right?
soulmate.
Yeah.
That's true.
So
Okay.
good choice.
So
Yeah,
good.
that's mine.
So good.
Back to me. I'll go to one. As I mentioned earlier, I like movies with twists, and everything we pretty much talked about has a good twist. I think one of the best twists ever to occur in a horror movie was April Fool's Day.
Oh, okay. Do
you remember that one from
I think I
1986?
remember that. Yeah.
Let's see. The only note that I have on that was directed by a gentleman by the name of Fred Walton.
Okay.
When a Stranger Calls,
Oh, okay.
When a Stranger
Yeah.
Calls Back, that,
Right.
series. And there is, it is your stereotypical summer around a lake slasher type of a movie. But the ending has such a great plot twist that you absolutely do not see coming from anywhere.
Right.
And to me, probably has one of the better endings of any horror movie, slasher movie.
Probably like slasher movie back in, what year was that?
86.
Yeah,
86.
in that whole realm of
Right
those
in the middle.
I
movies.
remember
Yeah,
April
right.
Fool's Day.
Yeah, I remember the name.
Oh, that
name.
was one that you'll have to go back and look.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, because you kind of like those.
I
You
love
kind of like those
slasher.
slasher.
Yeah.
Teenage.
Yep.
Going into the woods.
It's,
Yeah.
on
Stop
the-
running because you're gonna fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or get up, stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
don't go into
There's
the
a
shed
whole lot
with
of
all
get
the
up,
farm
stupid.
implements. Right.
Thank you.
It is around a lake. There are boats involved. There are cabins involved. There are woods involved.
Right.
And a big, scary, creaky house that sits unused for a long time until the group of teenagers or college kids, I can't remember, right in that
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
age range, come to use it. And there, but there's not the backstory of, oh my God, there was a creepy, hockey mask wearing, strangler 15 years ago who suddenly escaped from the local funny farm. And, it wasn't that. It was set up differently, but it goes as your prototypical, stereotypical slasher horror scary movie. And there's some parts that, that jump out at you that, kind of make you jump back a little bit. And, kind of the gore is bury your face in your partner's shoulder type thing. But the twist at the end,
Ooh, we're gonna have to watch that.
Yeah, we'll have to check that out.
but might be a little hard to find, but check the streaming services and you might be able to find it.
Yeah.
or eBay.
Maybe on Shudder.
Yeah, I personally like when I go back and I find movies that people recommend to me that I had never seen that kind of got lost between the cracks, because that happens. That happens. April Fool's Day, I remember the name.
I do too.
And I may have seen it, but it sounds like it might be something like that. I remember a couple years ago we saw this movie called Society. And I'm not going to go too far into it, but it was one of those movies that happened in the 80s, and it is really perverse and weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did I miss this?
I was like, and I need to watch.
Yeah, I
How
was
did
thinking the
this
same
is
thing.
crazy. Like, it's insane. Anyway, I'm thinking it might be something like that. It may have fallen through our cracks as well.
Maybe
We'll have to check it out.
For sure.
Didn't do great at the box office, but it wasn't like it disappeared after opening weekend. It stuck around for a little while. So again, if you get the chance to see it.
Totally going to look for that
Cool.
one.
Yeah, we'll look for it. April Fool's Day. Okay, Tanya, are you ready to give us your last movie choice?
Yes, I am. And this one, I can't believe that I'm putting this on a list because this one actually I saw with you guys
Ooh.
in the movie theater. And I almost wanted to walk out because this movie freaked me out so much. And you guys might not think this way, but this one, it was so brutal. It was the remake of Hills Have Eyes.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know if you remember.
Oh my God.
Like within the first, 20 minutes of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
It is
I'm like, I don't know if I can watch this movie. Holy crap.
Yeah.
And this movie, and I actually, as I was thinking about movies for this, I went back and I started watching the trailers and the clips to kind of, because it's kind of impacted me in a weird way because I'm like, wow, I'm kind of sick because I sat through this movie. It is so crazy, this movie.
It is.
If you have a weak stomach, you cannot sit through this movie.
Yeah.
I'm telling you. And if you love gore and just, this movie's brutal.
Yeah.
Super brutal.
Brutal is the only word. I mean, it's not even slasher. It's brutal.
It's brutal.
So if you're into brutal, this is your movie.
Brutal, creepy.
Now, this one I didn't
has it all.
know. This is my little thing that goes with Walking Dead. And you might already know all this, but Greg Nicotero was in that
Nicotero.
movie. I didn't know he was in that
I didn't know he
movie.
was
I
in
didn't
there.
either.
He was a mutant. He was cyst.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
I was like
I know-
so
Nicotero's
excited to
amazing.
find that
Yeah,
out.
I know Nicotero was in Day of the Dead, was actually acted in Day of the Dead.
I had no idea though he was in Hills Have Eyes.
I didn't know
Wow.
he was an actor in...
Right? I thought that was so cool
I'll
because
have
it was
to look him up.
That
It
new
was
one is
so
brutal.
fitting.
Are you talking
Yeah.
about the original or the...
Remake.
Yeah, no, I'm saying
Right.
for Nicotero.
Oh, for...
Greg
When he was in
Nicotero.
it.
Was he in the original or was he...
No, he's in the remake.
He's in the remake.
Yes.
It would have to be the remake.
Man, that
yeah.
is a dark film. The remake
not
is
that old.
dark.
Yeah.
It is. It's so dark. And it's just like that whole, like, where this family and the brother and sister don't get along and they're
Yeah.
bored and whatever, and the parents are just doing their thing.
Again, it could happen.
It can't see, and that's what and I'm thinking, you're traveling, like, because we traveled across country when we moved from California to North Carolina.
Yeah.
And you're kind of going, and all of a sudden, you're on this stretch of nothing
Yeah.
for a really
Did you
long
look
time.
for nails in the road?
Yeah.
Right?
So scary.
And I'm thinking, wow, like how easy is it if we just like take a little side road because we're looking for the bathroom and it seems to be kind of far and we keep going. All of a
Yep.
sudden we're stuck and there's no cell service in the middle of nowhere. Right?
He's like, nope.
If it wasn't immediately off the freeway, I didn't go there.
Yeah.
So
And the other thing how this could happen to us is because I have this passion of taking pictures of old, like broken down buildings and old creepy
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, dilapidated.
Yes,
stuff.
that is like my thing. And like cemeteries and just all the creepy stuff. Like that could happen. Like we
Yeah.
could be in that situation. So that just
you're on your own, babe.
you're going with me. And then the whole idea, because they did do all that nuclear testing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and all that kind of stuff. So you're like, yeah, what like happened to like, you know, animals and people
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And the scenes where you go in and you have like all these mannequins and they're all like weird
Yeah.
stuff going on. You're like, holy crap. And it's just the creep factor on
Yeah.
top of it. And then they do a lot of the, like you saw something on the side of your eye kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, what was that? Like,
Yeah.
where is that going and what's happening? And I want to see it. Like, you know, so you're kind of waiting because you know you eventually you get that payoff
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the movie. But then stuff happens where you're like, I can't watch this. Like, I seriously cannot watch
They
this. Like,
pull
what's
the rug
happening?
out from under you
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh my
for
God.
Sure.
So there was, and then the special effects, I think too, of just like what happened to people with this whole nuclear testing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, with their version of what
Right.
Yeah.
they
What
think
they would look
happened.
like,
Yeah, because you're just like, oh my God, that's just so gross.
Yeah.
And, and creepy too. I use the word creepy a lot too.
Yeah.
But yeah, because it's just,
Super-
how do
that's
you
the best way to
how do you
describe it,
describe
yeah.
all of that? So I picked this one, I think, because it's probably one of the most intense movies that I've seen. Because I a lot of times I watch these slasher movies and stuff, and I can really kind of separate it, like without a problem. I'm like, yeah, okay, knives are
Yeah.
flying, blood, blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
I don't know, this one. I was
That
like,
one pushed you to your limit.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I can't go too much further
Yeah.
than this. I think it was kind of my limit because of some of the stuff that happens in there.
Yeah.
and it's just like, oh, okay.
It's interesting because I remember when we saw it, and the original Hills Have Eyes. There's kind of a tongue-in-cheek quality to it. It was intense, but it wasn't like this. So you're going in, you're thinking, okay, there's going to be a little bit of tongue-in-cheek to this, and it's going to be creepy and it's, in its own way. But oh my God, the gut punch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's hard to talk. It's funny. It's hard to talk about movies when you can't really kind of get into
Yeah.
I know.
into the details
Yeah.
of it because there's so much about it. And I'm just trying to see if there was any other thing I had on my notes that I wanted to mention. The one thing I remember watching the movie is I didn't breathe a lot. It's one of those movies where I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, breathe, okay. Because it was just a lot of that for me in that movie where it was just like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I definitely recommend it if you can handle a lot of just really disturbing. And I also think about that when people make these movies, that kind of goes through my mind. Like, what the hell were they
are they-
on?
Yeah.
Like that is like the darkest part of your mind.
It's
Like,
Yeah.
where did you come up with that? And I want to meet you.
All right.
I want to sit
Dinner.
down with
Yeah,
you
right.
and have dinner because I want to know, how did you get there?
Yeah.
Because that is just not normal thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, there would be two ultimate jobs on this planet. Would be sitting in a room, coming up with things like that. Like, okay, with the whole 3 or 4 Final Destination movies.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can we outdo what we
Right.
did in the last movie? Okay, we had a giant mirror fall from a ballroom and decapitate 4 people.
Right.
All right, let's have a building fall and crush 8 people and show it in great... you come up with these things and you take it so far to the nth degree.
Yeah.
And then, conversely, writing comedy. Sitting in a room and laughing all day long and getting paid
Yeah.
for it. And getting paid to write something,
Yeah.
like a Hills Have Eyes
Yeah.
type of a movie. I mean,
Best jobs ever.
right.
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean,
Yeah.
you'd never want to retire. You'd never want to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd never want to quit. You never want to end your day.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. So that's my final
Oh,
So you would
Great
take
list.
someone on a date to see that?
Ooh.
Yes, you would. Yes, you would.
Yes, I would. Well, because that one. Well, it was a date night.
That's true.
Yeah.
It was a
Right,
double date.
It was
night.
a
That's
double
true.
date
You're
night.
right.
The
Double
Orbis
date night.
went
You are so
out,
right.
and then
that's why it was so intense.
Yeah.
and then I'm like, holy crap! What am I doing? So, but I did. I enjoyed the movie.
Yeah.
Yes, but that's the best horror movie.
I know.
Yeah.
I did enjoy it.
When you have all those emotions.
I never watched it again. And I started
It's-
watching
yeah, you'd
the
have to-
trailers, and I was like, "Am I ready? No, I can't do it right now."
Yeah.
So I had
Makes
to
me want to watch it.
Yeah. It makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, do you have your last one?
My final one, it's interesting that and this will be indicative of how much alike you and I think, sort of segue into the same, oh my God, you're out on the road, you're doing something, this could happen.
Yeah.
Going back to 1980, do you remember Mother's Day?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Which, for me, was probably the beginning of, slasher movies are pretty cool.
Yeah.
Gore is actually kind of fun. Saw the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but did not watch it all the way through.
Okay.
For whatever reason, I don't know. But this was probably the first...
That hurts me. I'm just gonna say.
I
We
was
can't be
gonna-
friends anymore.
Yeah. Cut.
I was gonna say leave now, please.
Get out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, plot twists kind of abound through Mother's Day. It could happen.
Yeah.
Getting into, pretty much covers everything that we just talked completely about,
Yeah.
the realm
Yeah.
of of the human psyche and how twisted some people can be.
Yeah.
And do you really know what's going on that deep in the woods?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. And I think Mother's Day just encompasses everything that we've just talked about for the last
Yeah.
hour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I remember some of the casts of Mother's Day, you could take them and put them in Texas Chainsaw and they would fit right in.
Right.
Yep.
So
Uh-huh.
it feels like a respectful follow-up to that kind of film.
Yeah.
And done well. It's sort of like, the stuff Rob Zombie does. Yes, he's influenced by those movies, but he does them very well.
He does.
So Mother's Day is a very respectable follow-up to a Texas Chainsaw kind of film.
It almost sort of takes what Chainsaw started, like you said, takes it to another level,
Yeah.
continues it, and opens up a door for so much more.
Yeah.
And really, Mother's Day came out in 1980.
Yeah.
So if you think about everything that came after it,
Yeah.
could have very well been influenced because
Absolutely. It's probably one that influenced a lot.
it was co-written, going back to my notes here, co-written, directed, and produced by Charles Kaufman.
Okay.
Do you know who Lloyd Kaufman is? Charles Kaufman's brother, the founder of Troma.
Oh,
Troma
There you go.
Studios. Okay.
There you go.
Which were known for as
Toxic Avenger. And,
right,
yeah.
right. This movie was actually banned in the United Kingdom.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
wow.
Yeah, it was something I didn't know, and in doing the research to do
Yeah.
the show with you guys here today, actually until 2015.
Oh,
It took them
wow.
that long.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, so 35 years to bring it in. And the interesting thing was, this was a theatrical release, so it was actually reviewed by Siskel and Ebert.
Oh, well.
What do they
They
think?
hated it, I'm sure.
Actually, can I? Well, go ahead. Go ahead. Say what you're going to say.
Okay, well,
and then I'll say what I'm.
interestingly, Roger Ebert,
Roger Ebert.
Yeah, Roger Ebert, sorry, gave it 0 stars.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, which was pretty much almost a gimme on that one.
Yeah.
But he was disgusted by the violence and the gore and the
Yes.
rape and the torture. Which, when you put it in those,
We know it's a good movie then.
Yeah.
Yeah. We know it's a good horror film. Right?
here's my money, give me my ticket.
Yeah.
You know?
We don't want
Yeah.
we don't want his approval.
Right.
Right.
It's interesting because you can see like in the Eli Roth's history of horror, they call back all these Siskel and Ebert reviews on during their slasher episode because in many ways the slasher thing went way over their heads. Like they just didn't get what the directors were trying to do, and they saw it as misogynistic and anti-woman, and it is the exact opposite. A lot of these guys were, renegade hippie directors who grew up with women's lib and were like, yeah, let's make
Well,
let's make the
survivors
final,
are always women.
Let's make
The
the
lead
smartest.
survivor are always the women.
Yeah,
Yep.
let's make the smartest person the woman, and
Right.
then it became
Yeah, the dumb
final girl.
boyfriend is always killed.
Yeah, he's
Right.
right off.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, or like the guy who thinks he can handle anything, he's the one who gets killed.
Yeah, the jock.
Then
Yeah.
the woman, she figures out, okay, I gotta outsmart this guy, this killer or whatever.
And it's always the timid, shy, meek one that's always, taken advantage
Yeah.
of in everyday life.
Exactly.
Who stands up and finally, finds that power.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and the directors are saying there's more to a woman than how she looks or maybe how she acts. There's more power there under the hood. And it's become this massive horror trope.
Yeah.
That's, to this day, we recently saw that movie Revenge.
Oh.
That's a great example of that sort of thing. It is the exact opposite, If I'm in a horror film, I don't expect to survive because I'm a male.
You got a target on your back, buddy.
Yeah. I'm probably get killed with a paintbrush or some shit.
Oh my god.
Because they'll show me doing art and then But
And at the end, Reyna and Tanya will end up
Exactly.
walking into the sunset arm in arm, whistling a happy tune.
That's
Exactly.
right. And I will not fall once while
I
being
was going to
chased.
say, they do need to stop that.
yeah,
Okay, I'm
that's
sorry.
super annoying. Yeah.
Though I probably would fall, but okay. That's okay.
Me
know
too,
it
because I'm so clumsy.
Exactly.
I know a lot of people that cannot appreciate horror movies, slasher movies, thriller movies, intense thinking movies because they have a hard time separating them.
Yeah.
And that is the key.
Yeah.
Our nephew has a hard time with slasher type movies.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah, because he went over to a friend's house when he was like 9 or 10, and they put on like scary, like I think it was like Freddy movies or something, and he wasn't quite prepared but he wasn't prepared for it at all, and it ruined him. Which he should have started with me. I could have taught him.
Yeah.
And got him there.
Into
but,
it, toes in the water first.
Right.
Yeah, but it ruined him.
Now, conversely, when my son was growing up, he'd sit there right with us and watch the movies.
Because he grew up with me in the house.
Yeah. Right.
So, and we grew up they grew up right next door to each other. And very similar sort of upbringings, but two totally different types of personalities. One can separate, one can't separate. Right. And it's not a criticism or anything like that.
Yeah.
But maybe that's where we go with the whole Siskel and Ebert thing, is to look at it for what it is.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to compare it to, Casablanca or Citizen Kane.
Right, exactly.
And I think a lot of the times that's what they did when they were doing their reviews and things like that. They're comparing it, and it's such an example of apples and oranges.
I have a question for you guys.
So true.
When you guys watch a horror movie, will you watch it all the way through, or will you ever stop and rewind because you saw a great scene where they're like slashing someone? You're like, holy crap! How did they just do that? Like,
sometimes I'll call for a rewind. I'm like, I need to see that again.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah, for sure.
we do rewinds. Yeah,
we'll do the slow frame by frame when the head explodes.
Oh yeah.
We watch
but it's done
see,
well.
Yes.
Yeah.
See how it actually happened.
See why I love them?
Yeah, we definitely do that.
Well, cool. It looks like we're done with.
Yes, thank you guys.
Oh my God, thank you. This was so exciting.
I couldn't think of a better couple to be our first guest.
Yeah, there you go. There's 10 great date night horror movies right there.
And you even surprised us with some that we're gonna have to watch.
Yeah.
That was our
plan. We got to go with. We got to check out April Fools for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that other one, the 19.
You'll Like My Mother.
Yes.
And You'll Like Me.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I haven't even seen that one, so I definitely.
We're on the hunt for that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you guys for being our first guest couple to curate. And
thank you. It made us feel special.
Yeah.
Yep.
Scare you later.
The Date Night Horror Show is written and produced by Enzo and Reyna. All music written and produced by Enzo. Follow the show on Facebook.com/The Date Night Horror Show. Find Enzo and Reyna online at TheDateNightHorrorShow.com.